I think this president's instincts have been right all along. He wants to create a more level playing field with the rest of the world. I think this is somewhat of an overreaction, in my opinion. However, the president last year moved to help us make us more competitive by focusing on regulations, energy, and taxes. This year he wants to focus on trade, immigration, and infrastructure. So I think his instincts are right, and I think you'll see a more targeted approach as we get into the details of this. Look, this is a matrix situation, as we all know. There are countries and there are product categories, and even within product categories, you have to look at specific instances. And I think this president's moving in the right direction.
Senator, let's talk a little bit about it, because that's very similar to what we just heard from Commerce Secretary Ross, just the idea that this could be a negotiation, that things are still playing out. You may not see the tariffs broadly put in without any exemptions carved out, without any exceptions, that maybe there's more than meets the eye here.
Well, always. I mean, look at NATO. The president during the campaign 2 years ago said we're going to drop out of NATO unless they pick up and pay their fair share for their own defense. And guess what's happening today? They're doing that. Same thing with NAFTA. He threatened to pull out of NAFTA. Today we're in negotiations to make it better. I think this is the same case here, where he's trying again to create a level playing field. But remember, we already have duties in place out there in the world today. Steel that is coming from South Korea already pays a very high duty from a dumping situation years ago. What the president really wants to call out, though, is transshipping from primarily China through other countries, and that's what this is opening up and revealing. So I think Wilbur Ross is right. You're going to see this White House and all the people involved in trade moving in a direction that is not going to blow the world up, but actually make us more competitive and open and give us access and open other markets to us.
What are the specifics? What does that look like? Are we talking about the NAFTA negotiations being tightened up, and what does that mean with the EU? When you get a lot of tough talk that's come out this morning from the EU, from the WTO, from Canada, all of them seem like they are up in arms over this.
Well, here's the reality. In the last 70 years, we've reduced global poverty. The United States single-handedly almost has reduced global poverty because of our trade laws and our trade treaties, and also because of our military. We've seen global poverty reduced by almost 2/3, while in the United States, poverty rate today is the same as it was in the 60s. What we are doing right now, this president is saying, look, we've gone far enough paying the way. The Marshall Plan rebuilt Europe, he rebuilt Asia, and right now we're trying to make sure that we can rebuild our economy here in the United States. So on the one hand, I applaud the president. On the second level, I think we need a lot more detail, and I think that's what the White House is working toward, to get a more targeted approach.
Senator Perdue, you come from the perspective of a business leader who was importing a lot of the goods that you sold, both at Reebok and at Dollar General. What would it mean if there were retaliatory measures to these tariffs, if walls started coming up more broadly around the globe?
Well, nobody wants a trade war. Those don't benefit anybody, and that's not what this president wants. But this president is frustrated. This is a business guy. He moves at a business pace, not a bureaucratic pace, and I think he got frustrated with the way Washington was responding to this, and frankly, the way other countries were responding to it as well. And so he stepped out, and I think we've got the world's attention now. So look, the status quo is not acceptable to this president, to me, to anybody who comes from a business perspective. At Reebok, for example, we made in dozens of countries, we sold in dozens of countries, and that's the way most of these multinational companies are formed. And frankly, that's the way most people are doing it. Even small businesses today make in multiple countries, sell in multiple countries. Look, I think the example that your prior guest used to talk about the automotive industry. If we make America more competitive, we'll attract more manufacturing to the U.S., more jobs, and more companies coming to the U.S. to access our market, but also to export more as well.
Hey, Senator, do you think, that's Joe Kernan, do you think there's any truth to the notion that the nationalists now are going to have wield too much power, and that, you know, he was a very strong representative of the globalists? I mean, there's no going back on it. Obviously, I understand nationalism too, but there's no going back on the whole. We live in a world that's global now. Should the next person that comes in represent that side of things to push back, or? I mean, could Navarro run wild now with Wilbur Ross, with the nationalism?
Look, this nationalism and protectionism is always a fear, but that's not where this president's heart is. This president wants to make us more competitive. If you want to grow our economy, you by definition have to export more. You know, and one of the ways to do that is to build our infrastructure, and that's what he wants to do. These ports need to be more competitive. We need to be able to access and receive these Panamax ships. But I think this discussion about protectionism, of course he wants to protect American jobs, but the best way to do that is to make us more competitive with the rest of the world. That's what the tax deal did, that's what regulatory work is doing, and frankly, that's what we can do if we get to the infrastructure piece this year. We need help from the Democratic side to do these things this year, because everything we want to do this year is at 60 votes in the Senate. But I don't think that's a real argument, Joe, on the nationalism. I don't think we should have any fears that this president's going to take us into an isolationist era. What we've got to do is engage with the rest of the world, and that's what he's doing.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.